Hello there, wherever you are tonight. Maybe the lights are low, maybe the hum of the day is fading. Let's rest a while and think slowly. There's something beautiful about this hour, that quiet edge between wakefulness and dreaming, where thought doesn't hurry, and even the air seems to listen. Perhaps you've had a long day filled with noise and motion, or perhaps your evening has been gentle, already soft around the edges. Either way, right now, there's no rush. You've arrived exactly where you need to be. Outside your window, the world carries on. Distant cars, a murmured wind, maybe the faint rustle of night creatures who never hurry because the dark is their friend. And here, in this small shared moment, we pause. Together, we'll wander through a story, not of adventure or suspense, but of understanding, the kind of story that doesn't demand, but drifts. One that lets curiosity unfold like a feather settling into still water. You might notice, as you listen, that your breathing has already begun to slow. That's what happens when the body feels safe. The heart beats a little more quietly. The shoulders soften. The mind stops scanning the horizon for what's next. Because there's nothing to solve here, only to wonder. Tonight we'll talk about the brain, not as a machine of logic and signal, but as a living constellation, a landscape of thought and dream. Each neuron a flicker of light, each connection a whisper across the dark. It's strange, isn't it, that the very thing doing the listening, the very thing shaping your sense of you, is also what we're about to explore. Like a mirror trying to study its own reflection. If that idea makes your thoughts spiral a little, that's all right. You can let them spiral. They'll find their own rhythm soon, circling gently. Like planets in slow orbits, the human brain, 3 pounds of softly folded matter, floating in its quiet sea of cerebrospinal fluid, is one of the universe's great mysteries pretending to be ordinary. It hums in silence behind your eyes, organizing everything you see, touch, and remember. And yet, when the world outside grows quiet, when screens dim and conversation fades, it doesn't stop. It changes shape. It shifts from doing to being. That's the moment we're in now, the quiet before thought. Imagine for a moment your mind as a night sky. Thoughts appear like faint constellations, familiar shapes drawn across the black. Some thoughts drift by quickly, like shooting stars, gone before you can name them. Others linger, patient, glowing softly, pulsing in rhythm with your breath. And beneath those stars, something deeper hums. The bass tone of your mind. It's not a voice, not exactly, more like a feeling of presence. The background warmth of existing. You rarely notice it in the noise of the day. But here at night, when the world leans into stillness, you can almost feel it, the quiet spark that never goes out. Scientists might call it baseline neural activity. Poets might call it soul. You don't need to choose. You can just feel it. If your eyes are beginning to grow heavy, that's perfectly fine. This isn't a lecture. It's a lullaby made of neurons and moonlight. You're allowed to drift. The story will still be here when you return. For thousands of years, humans have wondered about this mysterious glow of consciousness. Ancient thinkers imagined spirits or divine fire flickering within the skull. Early scientists tried to find the spark, dissecting, mapping, tracing threads of gray and white. And still, the truth remains soft, something we can describe but never quite touch. The brain, they learned, isn't a static organ, but a living conversation, a billion little cells whispering to each other in chemical sighs. Even when you sleep, those whispers continue, reorganizing your memories, stitching together the story of who you are. So, tonight, as we wander through this landscape, remember, every image you see in your mind, every word you hear me say, every heartbeat you feel, is your brain's gentle music. If you like, you can imagine it now, the neurons lighting one by one, like distant city windows blinking awake in the dark. Each light a signal, a tiny moment of recognition. I know this. I remember that. I feel safe. I am here. That's the rhythm of the night inside you, and perhaps, if you listen closely, you might notice the strange paradox of all this, that the same organ that ponders galaxies is made of the same stuff that once drifted inside them. Your brain, in its quiet night work, is stardust remembering itself. That thought alone can make you smile, softly, privately, as if the universe had just winked. But don't worry. I promise this won't keep you awake with curiosity. It's the gentle kind, the kind that sighs instead of stirs. Let's linger here just a little longer before we move on. Feel the air move in and out of your lungs. Slow, steady, like the tide brushing the shore. Inhale, the universe enters. Exhale, it leaves a little lighter. Each breath a reminder that you're part of a rhythm older than thought. This story we're beginning isn't about rushing toward answers. It's about slowing enough to notice how astonishingly alive you already are. You, lying there, wrapped in the quiet warmth of your own room, are a living network of 100 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others. Every second, they create symphonies of electricity and chemistry, all so you can feel a soft blanket. Hear a whisper, remember a childhood scent. Dream of tomorrow. The next time you feel small beneath the stars, remember that there's a universe inside you too, one that hums and flickers and never truly sleeps. Tonight we'll explore that inner cosmos, slowly, kindly, with wonder. We'll travel through thought and dream, through memory and meaning, and eventually drift down into the deepest quiet, the silence that isn't empty, but full. But for now, all you need to do is rest here, in this first gentle spark before thought, the threshold between knowing and simply being. If your eyelids flutter closed as you listen, that's perfect. If your breathing deepens, even better. The story doesn't mind if you fall asleep in the middle. That's part of the design. You're meant to fade into the spaces between words, to let them carry you like a soft tide, because even when you stop listening consciously, your brain keeps streaming the story on its own, inventing, connecting, glowing. So, welcome to the quiet spark, the place where science meets sleep and thought turns into light. And as we drift further, the next thought begins to unfold quietly. Somewhere inside your mind, a small flame trembles. Not the kind that burns, but the kind that glows. The delicate warmth of a question taking its first breath. Curiosity that ancient light awakens. You can almost feel it. A faint brightness behind your eyes. A hush in the air around your thoughts. It is the brain's way of saying, I am alive and I wish to understand. Imagine that light as a lantern, cupped in gentle hands. It flickers, never harsh, never hurried. Its glow stretches only far enough to reveal the next few steps on a darkened path. You don't need to see the end. Curiosity is content with the beginning. Long before telescopes, before microscopes, before even language as we know it, that lantern guided us. A rustle in the grass, a shape in the distance, the curve of a shadow. The earliest humans felt wonder before they felt certainty. They tilted their heads toward the unknown and leaned closer. The brain rewarded that leaning with a shimmer of pleasure, a soft wave of dopamine spreading like candlelight across neural walls. That's what curiosity is. Chemistry in love with possibility. Your brain, though it feels still beneath your skull, is a restless storyteller. When you wonder, it rearranges itself, subtle and electric. The prefrontal cortex, where decisions begin, brightens first, the thinker's lantern room. Then, deeper layers respond, the hippocampus preparing to store new patterns, the midbrain humming softly as dopamine dances outward. Each neuron, a match struck in the dark, lighting another and another until whole constellations awaken. This is not noise. It's orchestration. The brain doesn't chase curiosity. It composes it. You might recall moments when curiosity felt almost physical, when an idea shimmered just beyond reach, and you leaned inward as though listening to a seashell. That lean is your biology turning toward wonder. Every question is a small gravitational pull. Let's drift back for a moment through centuries of thought. The Greek philosophers believed curiosity was the soul stretching its limbs. Aristotle said, all men by nature desire to know. He might have felt that spark while watching sunlight scatter on the sea, or while listening to wind move through olive leaves. In China, scholars describe the same feeling as xinqi, heart breath, the stirring of the heart toward truth. Even before philosophy, curiosity was painted in myth. Prometheus stealing fire, Eve tasting the fruit, Pandora opening the box. The stories warn us, yet also honor the impulse. Because without that flicker of wanting to know, there is no progress, no art, no dream. And beneath every story, the same neural lantern burned, quiet, pulsing, alive. Inside your skull, curiosity is less a flame and more a rhythm. Neurons don't truly glow, they pulse. Each time a signal leaps a synapse, ions surge, then settle. Billions of these leaps happen every second, tiny bursts of potential, microscopic flashes that together form the mind's aurora. You don't see it, but you feel its echo, the thrill of learning, the satisfaction of connecting one thought to another. Scientists call this pattern the reward prediction signal. It's what happens when your brain senses that something new might be valuable. It doesn't even need proof. The promise of discovery is enough. That's why curiosity feels good before you. In that way, curiosity is gentle deception. The brain lures itself forward with light it creates from hope. Maybe tonight, as you listen, you can sense a faint version of that. A small interest stirring. How does my own brain make me curious? That interest is itself an example, a perfect loop. You're curious about curiosity. The lantern lights itself. It's beautiful, isn't it? How self-reflection becomes illumination. How the observer and the observed fold into one quiet flame. Imagine, for a moment, that you are walking through an ancient library. The walls breathe the scent of paper and dust. The floor creaks softly beneath your steps. Lanterns hang from high rafters, their light golden and slow. Each shelf is a neural pathway, each book a memory waiting to be opened. Curiosity is the hand that moves through the air, choosing one volume and not another. You pull a book from the shelf, a question. As you open it, more lanterns light across the hall, illuminating other books connected to this one. That's what your brain does each time you follow a thread of thought. It spreads the glow, building bridges between neurons, strengthening pathways of association. Over time, those bridges form the architecture of understanding. Learning, then, is not storage. It is illumination. Curiosity also softens the edges of fear. When we approach something unknown, the amygdala, the brain's sentinel of caution, often stirs first. But when curiosity is strong enough, it quiets that alarm. Dopamine and norepinephrine act like kind words, telling the nervous system it's safe to look closer. This is why a scientist can stare calmly into the mysteries of black holes, or a child can reach toward the shimmer of a jellyfish instead of recoiling. Curiosity transforms the unknown from threat into invitation. It's an act of courage disguised as wonder. And every act of curiosity adds a thread to our collective story, the slow illumination of human thought across time. In your own life, you've followed this rhythm countless times. The moment you first opened a favorite book and lost track of hours. The first time you wondered how clouds float or where music comes from. Even now, as you rest, Your mind might wander through half-remembered fascinations, machines, colors, faces, sounds. Each memory a lantern left burning somewhere inside you. Sometimes those lanterns dim, but they never go out. The circuits that curiosity once built remain ready, waiting for light. That's why rediscovering an old passion feels like reunion. The neurons reconnecting like friends who recognize each other instantly after years apart. Curiosity isn't always grand. It can be quiet, domestic, tender, the way you notice the pattern of light on a wall, or the temperature of your tea cooling by degrees. The way you wonder what someone you love is thinking when they pause mid-sentence. These are micro-curiosities, soft glances of attention that make the world shimmer with meaning. Modern neuroscience calls this the orienting response, the brain's automatic shift of focus toward novelty. But such words are too stiff for the miracle it is. It's more like the universe tugging gently at your sleeve, reminding you that you're still part of the unfolding. Every time you follow that tug, the lantern brightens. Let's wander deeper, into the architecture of attention. Inside the parietal lobes, your brain keeps a dynamic map of what's important: sounds, sights, thoughts, sensations. When something new or unexpected appears, the map rearranges itself within fractions of a second. Neural circuits whisper to each other, "Look here, listen here." That coordination between curiosity and attention forms the foundation of consciousness. In a way, you are the sum of what your curiosity chooses to notice. Even now, lying still in the dark, your brain is selecting this word, not that one, this image, not the next. It decides what to hold, what to let drift. That gentle choosing is what shapes your inner world. If curiosity is a lantern, then wonder is the glow it casts on everything nearby. They're siblings born from the same spark. Wonder is curiosity that has paused to admire itself. It's what happens when the question no longer seeks an answer, but enjoys the asking. You might feel that now. That quiet, wordless warmth that comes when a thought stops being sharp and becomes round. Like a pebble smoothed by time, curiosity leads us into the labyrinth of understanding. Wonder lets us rest within it. In the body, curiosity doesn't just illuminate the mind, it changes the heart's rhythm, too. Studies show that when you are engaged, heart rate slows slightly, breathing deepens, and parasympathetic systems, those that restore and heal, come alive. It's as though the body senses that learning and resting are allies, not opposites. So as you listen, your pulse may already be syncing with that rhythm. Slower, steadier, tuned to the gentle pulse of thought. Your curiosity, in this moment, is not keeping you awake. It's cradling you toward deeper calm. There's humor hidden here, too, if you listen for it. The brain is endlessly curious about itself, like a cat chasing its own tail, or a mirror reflecting another mirror into infinity. Neuroscientists study the brain's mysteries using the very tool they're studying, and philosophers laugh softly at the circular beauty of it. You could say the brain is the universe's way of wondering about its own reflection, and you, lying there, are part of that cosmic curiosity. Stardust contemplating starlight. Matter asking what matter means. It sounds grand, but it feels quiet, like a sigh turned into light. Perhaps curiosity is the most humane thing we possess. It softens arrogance. It replaces certainty with openness. It keeps us humble before the vastness of everything we don't yet know. When you look at the night sky and feel both small and infinite, that's curiosity gently balancing the two truths, that you are a single life, and that life itself is immeasurable. And maybe, just maybe, curiosity is how the universe keeps learning itself. Every brain, every question, another lantern in the endless dark. Now the flame of our lantern burns lower, its light rich and amber. You can feel your body heavier against the bed, your thoughts slower between breaths. The story is still unfolding, but at its own pace, the pace of neurons resting between sparks. As the flame dims, let's linger a little longer with this warmth. Imagine the light filling your chest, spilling gently into your limbs, washing through you like honeyed air. That's curiosity's afterglow, understanding transforming into peace. When you learn something beautiful, the mind sighs. When you wonder without needing to know, it relaxes completely. You might notice that your eyelids flutter, your breathing deepens. That's not distraction. It's the rhythm of integration. Your brain is tucking tonight's reflections into its vast archive, linking them to memories, to dreams, to future moments of wonder. Even sleep, scientists say, is an act of curious sorting, the mind deciding which sparks to keep glowing until morning. So, before we move on, let's honor this quiet drive that shapes our species, our lives, and even our dreams. Curiosity made us look up. It made us build tools, write music, invent words like love and why and home. It made us light fires in the dark, real ones, and the kind inside the mind. And now, here you are, a single listener among billions, lying under the same ancient sky, keeping that fire alive simply by caring to listen, by letting your thoughts wander gently through the night. If your eyes are growing heavier, that's perfect. The lantern doesn't mind. It was never meant to stay blazing. Its purpose is to lead you far enough that you can rest in wonder. So, let the questions fade for now. Let the warmth remain. Tomorrow, curiosity will wake again with the sun, ready to ask new things. But tonight, it's enough to feel its glow from the inside, a quiet pulse of aliveness, steady and kind. The flame softens, the shadows stretch. The night leans closer, whispering its own infinite why. And as we drift further, the next thought begins to unfold quietly. If you could listen to your own brain right now, it would not be silent. It would hum, softly, steadily, like an orchestra tuning in the dark, every thought, every memory, every drifting image in the half-light of rest is a note, played by billions of invisible musicians. And somewhere deep within that hidden concert hall, a quiet conductor lifts a baton, not to make noise, but to make harmony out of the silence. The human brain is an instrument of impossible beauty, 3 pounds of living music pulsing beneath the skull. It doesn't play through sound, but through rhythm. Waves of electrical potential rise and fall like breath. Synapses open and close like violin strings trembling at the edge of sound. You are hearing this orchestra right now, not through your ears, but through your thoughts. The words you understand, the calm you feel, the slowing rhythm of your heartbeat, all are part of the same performance, and yet no one has ever heard it directly. Even the most precise instruments, the EEGs and fMRIs, only catch glimpses, flickers of melody in an ocean of invisible sound. If you were to watch the waves of your brain, they would look like an ocean seen from the sky, peaks and troughs of energy moving across a living sea, some gentle, some quick, some rising to crest before fading into the next. This is your neural music, delta and theta waves, slow and wide as dreams, alpha waves, calm and thoughtful, beta and gamma, sharp as waking thought. But right now, in the soft stillness before sleep, it is mostly the slow ones that sing, the low hum of synchronization, the brain easing into its nocturne. It's strange to think that silence is not quietness, but coordination, millions of neurons pulsing together in time. Each cell is a musician, trained by billions of years to play its part with perfect precision. A single neuron fires and 1,000 listen. One electric breath sparks the next. The rhythm never stops. Even when you sleep, even when you dream, the concert continues. If you were awake enough to notice, you might imagine hearing it, not as sound, but has vibration, the low pulse of being alive. Some call it the resting state network, but that name feels too mechanical. It's more like a lullaby that the brain hums to itself when the world outside goes dark. And this lullaby has sections, movements of thought and rest. There is the default mode network, that quiet string section that plays when you daydream, imagining yourself in stories, rehearsing futures, wandering memories' corridors. There is the salience network, the percussion of attention, soft drums reminding you to notice the world. And there are the executive circuits, the brass and woodwinds that organize, harmonize, decide. Together, they form an orchestra unlike any other, one that creates not sound, but awareness. Imagine standing in the center of that hall. Around you, neurons shimmer like instruments waiting to be played. Some glow faintly, their frequencies overlapping in waves of invisible sound. Others rest, waiting for their cue. At first there is no melody, only tuning, random plucks and hums, but then, as you take a breath, the conductor, perhaps the quiet intelligence of consciousness itself, raises a hand, and suddenly the noise aligns. Alpha rhythms sweep gently across the cortex, like the rustle of a bow across strings. Theta waves rise beneath them, the slow pulse of imagination beginning to play. Deep in the midbrain, the thalamus keeps the beat, passing signals like a metronome, steady, patient, endless. This is your orchestra tuning for sleep. Sometimes, when people talk about the brain, they describe it as a machine, but that's far too cold. Machines hum predictably without emotion. The brain does not. It sighs, it improvises, it listens. It has moments of quiet joy, of melancholy, of surprise. If you could translate its patterns into music, it would sound something like jazz. Flowing, flexible, full of questions. Each thought is a solo. Each memory, a reprise. And like all good musicians, your neurons respond to each other's rhythm. When one begins to sync, others follow, joining the melody. This synchronization, scientists call it coherence, is what creates understanding. A moment ago, a word was just a sound. Now it carries meaning. That change is a chord resolving. The orchestra finds its harmony again. When you close your eyes, the music deepens. Visual centers quiet, but imagination hums louder. The occipital lobes, those regions that process light, begin to see inwardly instead of outwardly. You might notice faint shapes behind your eyelids, colors without source, flashes of something half-remembered. That's the mind's projectionist, playing soft reels of memory against the velvet curtain of darkness. Elsewhere, the hippocampus stirs like a careful archivist, sorting through old tunes, deciding which melodies are worth repeating in tomorrow's performance. And always, the rhythm continues. Even now, as you listen to this, your neurons fire in perfect timing with your breath. Inhale, exhale, like rise and fall of strings. It's beautiful, isn't it? How the same pattern that governs oceans and seasons governs thought. Waves within waves, cycles within cycles. The brain is not a static thing. It is music made of time. Let's take a closer look at the instruments. There are the neurons, of course, elegant branching trees of signal and response. Each one carries electrical impulses down its axon, across tiny synapses, toward the dendrites of another. But those impulses don't travel alone. Surrounding them are glial cells, the quiet accompanists. For centuries, scientists thought they were merely support, stagehands in the great neural theater. But now we know they hum too, modulating rhythms, tuning the music of thought. Astrocytes, in particular, conduct their own slow symphony, moving calcium waves through the brain like tides through a harbor. They control when neurons fire, when they rest. In this orchestra, even silence is composed. Some neuroscientists say consciousness arises not from the firing itself, but from the synchronization between firing and stillness, from the intervals between notes. Just as music needs pauses, the mind needs space. Perhaps that's what calm truly is, the gaps between bursts of thought, where awareness simply listens. There is humor here, too. Your brain is a jazz band that doesn't sleep. Even at rest, it plays spontaneous riffs, dreams, flashes of insight, random melodies that sometimes sound absurd until morning light turns them into understanding. Think of the moments when a solution arrives suddenly after hours of struggle. That's your midnight orchestra playing without your conscious mind conducting, finding harmony in the dark. Some people call that intuition, others luck, but really it's rehearsal. Dreaming is how the orchestra practices new compositions. When scientists record sleeping brains, they often see a phenomenon called sleep spindles, quick bursts of rhythmic activity like short trills of violin. These spindles are moments when the thalamus and cortex share information, reinforcing memory. Each spindle, a rehearsal of learning. Each oscillation, a practice of being alive. So when you dream, your orchestra is working, replaying melodies from the day, strengthening connections, polishing the performance of tomorrow's mind. It's comforting to think of sleep that way, not absence, but continuation. The body rests, but the music continues beneath the skin. You might picture your neurons now, glowing faintly in the dark. Tiny notes of light composing lullabies you will never consciously hear, and yet you feel them. You always have, sometimes when you feel calm, sitting by a window watching the world pass slowly, your brain's rhythms align in a particularly beautiful way. Scientists call it alpha coherence, but that name doesn't do it justice. It's more like the soft blending of 1,000 instruments breathing together. Your internal tempo slows. Your thoughts no longer race, they float. And in that floating, creativity awakens. Many great ideas have come from this half-dreaming state. Einstein, imagining himself riding a beam of light. Kekulé seeing the structure of benzene in the image of a serpent. Poets hearing verses arrive whole in a drowsy hush. All of them were listening to their midnight orchestra. You are listening now, too. Each word you hear, each pause between them, each breath you take, becomes part of the symphony. The auditory cortex translates the rhythm of my voice into pulses, aligning them with the slower oscillations of rest. Your prefrontal cortex relaxes its grip, your limbic system eases its emotional chords, your parasympathetic nerves spread a soft hum through your chest. The result is harmony, physiological and poetic. Your entire body, an orchestra of organs, joins in. The heart beats in triple time, the lungs rise and fall, the blood flows in smooth phrases through veins. Even the cells in your fingertips vibrate faintly, carrying the rhythm outward. All of this music, all of this motion, happens without effort. You don't conduct it. It conducts you. It's worth noting that the brain doesn't simply make music. It responds to it too. When you listen to your favorite song, neurons in your auditory cortex synchronize with the beat, predicting each rise and fall. Dopamine surges just before the chorus, the brain's way of saying, yes, I know what's coming, and I love it. But even without external sound, the same networks activate during imagination. When you hum silently in your head, your brain behaves as though it's really hearing. In the theater of the mind, imagination is as real as perception. That's why even now, if I describe a cello's low note, you can almost hear it. Deep, resonant, warm. The brain obliges, playing it quietly within. You are, in a sense, always your own musician. There is a profound comfort in realizing that the brain never truly stops singing. Even when sorrow visits, even when confusion dulls the melody, the orchestra remains. It may shift to a minor key, but it plays on. Sometimes rest is not silence, but softness. The conductor lowers the tempo. The violins become whispers. The drums turn to heartbeat. And the music continues under the surface until light returns. If you've ever emerged from grief with a new thought, a fresh clarity, that was your orchestra composing healing. The brain's music is not decoration. It's survival. Rhythm is how life endures. Right now, as the night deepens, your neurons are performing one of the most ancient concerts in existence. Their score is older than language, older than memory. It began when the first single cell pulsed in time with the tide, when the first creature learned to rest and wake. Every heartbeat you've ever felt is a percussion from that original rhythm. Every breath, a verse written in continuation. So when you feel the slow, steady comfort of your own mind settling, remember, it's not stillness. It's ancient music remembering itself. If you like, imagine the inside of your mind now as a grand hall lit by dim blue light. The air is filled with a soft, endless resonance. Some instruments play high, shimmering notes. Others hum low and deep, like waves on a distant shore. You sit in the center, eyes closed, feeling the vibration move through you. Each inhale brings harmony. Each exhale, resolution. This concert never ends. It only changes tempo. Fast when you chase, slow when you rest. Silent only in the way a heartbeat is silent when it listens between beats. Perhaps that's why humans have always felt a kinship with music. We don't just hear it, we recognize ourselves in it. Every melody mirrors the mind's hidden pulse. Every harmony reflects the cooperation of neurons. When a song moves you, it's because it matches your inner waves. Even lullabies, simple, slow, repetitive, are not random. They mimic the body's rhythm in rest, the breath, the rocking of the chest, the slow oscillation of theta waves. They tell the brain, you are safe. You can slow down now. So if you find your eyes growing heavy, if the melody of these words begins to blur, that's no accident. You are aligning with your own music again. Your brain, your midnight orchestra, doesn't mind if you drift away mid-performance. It will continue playing, reshaping, healing, weaving its symphony of sleep. Perhaps you'll dream of sound, of choirs in starlight, or of waves whispering across sand. Perhaps you won't remember it all. Either way, the song will continue, because that's what it means to be alive. To hum in darkness and call it thought. And when morning comes, when consciousness returns like the bright first note of a new day, your orchestra will shift again, tuning for wakefulness, for movement, for wonder. But for now, stay here, listening to the quiet music of your own existence, the gentle collaboration of trillions of cells keeping time beneath the hush of the night. If your eyes close, let them. If your breath slows, follow it. You are safe within the rhythm. And as we drift further, the next thought begins to unfold quietly. Somewhere within you there is an ocean that never dries. It's not made of water, though it moves the same way, in tides, in ripples, in quiet waves that rise and fade without sound. This is the sea of memory, where everything you've ever been still drifts, softly, patiently, waiting to be found again. If you close your eyes now, you might see it, the endless surface of recollection, sometimes calm and mirror-smooth, sometimes stirred by a passing thought. Beneath it lie sunken worlds, childhood afternoons, familiar voices, the smell of rain on warm pavement, the shape of someone's laughter long after they've gone. You don't have to go looking for them. They find you. Memories rise the way bubbles do, unhurried, weightless, shimmering just before they reach the surface. You might be half asleep, and suddenly a moment returns, the angle of sunlight on a table, the feeling of cold air when you opened a door years ago. This is how the mind remembers, not by force, but by rhythm, deep within your brain, near its center. lies a structure no bigger than your thumb, the hippocampus. Its name means seahorse because its shape curls like one, delicate and coiled in the temporal lobe. And just as a seahorse drifts through water, the hippocampus drifts through time. It's the keeper of your inner ocean, the navigator that turns experience into story. When you live through a moment, right now as you listen, electrical signals flow through that hippocampal sea. They echo, repeating in loops until they etch themselves into the network. That repetition is memory taking root. You might think you're simply listening to words, but your brain is already translating them into patterns, into chemistry that can be recalled tomorrow. Or 10 years from now, the hippocampus works quietly, without ceremony. But every remembered thing you carry, every praise, every first kiss, every dream, every small kindness began there. Memories, however, are not static. They are fluid, like waves. Each time you recall one, you alter it slightly, lifting it from the deep, polishing it with new light, then setting it back into the current. That's why the past never feels fixed. It's rewritten each time you visit it, blending with who you are in the present. The sea of memory is not a museum. It's a living tide. Scientists have found that when you remember something, the same neural networks that encoded it light up again, as if you're reliving the moment. The smell of bread baking, the sound of a particular song, the pulse of excitement or grief all return through the same corridors. That's why certain scents can transport you instantly, or why a song can undo you with emotion you didn't know was still stored. Those sensory portals are anchors dropped into your hippocampal sea, linking the physical world to the emotional one. It's beautiful, isn't it? The way biology becomes poetry without meaning to. You might imagine your memories as small glass bottles drifting in that inner tide. Some are clear, their messages legible. Others have faded ink, words blurred by time. A few are sealed so tightly that even you can't open them anymore. Not because they're lost, but because they've served their purpose. Sometimes the sea keeps its secrets for your sake. The brain is kind like that. It knows that remembering everything would be unbearable. So it lets some bottles sink deeper where the light can't reach. Those forgotten moments aren't gone. They've simply joined the ocean's depth, transformed into the background calm of who you are. If you could hear the hippocampus working, it might sound like waves brushing against rock, gentle, repetitive, eternal. During sleep especially, that sound deepens. The brain replays memories of the day in slower rhythm, strengthening the important ones, letting others dissolve. This process is called consolidation, though that word hardly captures its grace. It's more like a tide sorting shells on a beach, deciding which to keep for morning. That's why sleep helps you learn, and why dreams are often stitched from fragments of yesterday. The hippocampus hums through the night, revisiting its archives, turning experience into knowledge and knowledge into peace. Some memories, though, resist this slow calm. They rise again and again like restless currents, moments of pain, of longing, of something unresolved. When that happens, the brain calls upon the amygdala, its companion in emotion. The amygdala adds color and intensity to memory, shaping not just what you recall, but how it feels. A memory of laughter glows warmly because the amygdala painted it with joy. A memory of loss feels sharp because it was drawn in grief. Both are true, both are necessary. They teach you what matters. But even the hardest memories over time are softened by re-remembering. Each time you bring them to the surface in gentleness, they lose a little of their sting. The waves wear them smooth. That is the mercy of the sea. Perhaps tonight, as you rest, you'll feel old memories drift by, not to trouble you, but to keep you company. You might see faces you haven't thought of in years, or hear voices that once shaped your laughter. You might remember places that no longer exist, or versions of yourself you thought you'd outgrown. Let them come and go. They're not intruders, they're tides returning home, and if any memory feels heavy, remember, you don't have to hold it. You can set it gently back into the current. The hippocampus will take care of it. That's its work, to hold the sea steady while you sleep. There's a kind of poetry in knowing that your sense of self is a collage of remembered light. The neurons that held your childhood are not the same as the ones firing tonight, yet the pattern of connection, that delicate dance of signal and silence, remains. In that way, you are both continuous and new, every night. As your brain replays its symphony of experience, it edits the narrative a little. It's like a writer smoothing sentences in a never-ending story. And every morning you wake slightly rewritten, the same protagonist, but wiser, softer, sometimes lighter. Memory, then, is not just recollection, it's architecture. It builds the invisible scaffolding of who you are. Each remembered kindness strengthens empathy. Each lesson remembered guards against repeating pain. Even forgetting that quiet erasure has purpose. It makes room for new construction. In a sense, forgetting is forgiveness in biological form, so if tonight you find yourself drifting between remembering and forgetting, that's exactly what the brain is built to do, to weave a tapestry where threads appear and vanish in equal grace. Sometimes people ask whether memories ever truly disappear. The truth is more gentle. They fade, but traces remain. Even memories of things you can no longer recall, the color of a childhood room, the sound of someone's footsteps, leave small imprints in the way you react, the way you dream, the way you love. We are haunted, yes, but softly by kindnesses we can't remember receiving, by moments that shaped us in silence. So much of who you are is made of things your conscious mind has let go of. And isn't that oddly comforting? It means you're allowed to forget sometimes. You're allowed to rest. The ocean of memory will keep flowing without your supervision. You might imagine now that the waves of that inner sea have grown calmer, the surface smooth, reflecting the dim stars of thought above. Each breath a ripple, each heartbeat a quiet drum. Beneath, as you breathe, the hippocampus slows its rhythm too. Neurons fire less frequently. The sea settles into its nightly equilibrium, not still but serene. You are in this moment a shoreline between remembering and sleep. The tide moves through you. There's nothing to fix, nothing to recall perfectly. The brain has its own intelligence, a quiet choreography of remembering and release. You can trust it. If your eyes are closing, that's good. Let them. Memory does its best work in the dark. The brain prefers the hush of unguarded moments to organize its archive. Even as you drift, synapses are still shifting, strengthening, pruning, balancing. You might dream soon, and when you do, the fragments of your day will mix with the echoes of long-forgotten moments, blending into stories that make emotional sense, even if they defy logic. That's your sea rearranging itself, each wave a gentle erasure, a soft rewriting of who you are. And so, tonight, let your memories do what they've always done: drift, dissolve, reappear. Some will wash gently against the shores of your mind. Others will stay beneath the surface, their quiet presence enough. You are the ocean that remembers and the sky that forgets. You are both the wave and the calm between waves. If your eyes are heavy, let them rest. The sea will keep its rhythm, and as we drift further, the next thought begins to unfold quietly. There is a small theater inside your head. Every night, as the world dims and your breath grows slow, the curtain lifts, and the mind begins to perform. No audience, no critics, no script. Just you, the dreamer, becoming everything and nothing at once. Dreams are strange, aren't they? They unfold without permission, stitched from fragments of thought, emotion, and memory. One moment you're walking through a city made of glass. The next, you're talking to someone who has been gone for years. And yet, somehow, it all feels natural while it lasts. The brain, for all its precision during the day, becomes a surrealist at night. It abandons reason and paints with color, scent, and impossible geometry. Scientists call this stage of sleep REM, rapid eye movement, but that phrase hardly captures the poetry of it. Beneath closed lids, your eyes flick back and forth as though reading invisible pages, scanning the stories your neurons are telling. If you could watch the brain during this time, you'd see bursts of energy lighting across it, the visual cortex glowing as if you were truly seeing, the motor regions firing as if you were moving. Your body wisely remains still. The brainstem has released a natural paralysis, a gentle tether that keeps you safe in bed while your mind travels freely. It's an exquisite trick, the brain rehearsing life without ever leaving the stage. That's what dreams are, rehearsals. The mind's nightly improvisation, exploring possibilities, resolving conflicts, filing emotions. During the day, you experience the world. At night, you process it. When something unsettles you, an argument, a loss, a burst of joy too large to hold, your brain returns to it in dream. Not always directly, but symbolically. A locked door becomes the conversation you avoided. A flight over water becomes the freedom you long for. In this way, dreams are emotional editors, rearranging the fragments of waking life into something the heart can understand. But the brain is playful too. Sometimes it uses dream time to practice movement, problem-solving, even creativity. Musicians often dream of melodies they later compose. Mathematicians wake with solutions they didn't consciously find. The motor cortex runs quiet simulations, rehearsing gestures, steps, even speech. You've done it too. You've dreamt of walking through a familiar place, or of reaching for something that doesn't exist. You've spoken lines that feel rehearsed, though you never wrote them. Your sleeping brain is studying, softly, invisibly, learning the language of life through metaphor. That's why, when you wake from a vivid dream, you sometimes feel as though you've lived a small lifetime overnight. Long before science named it, ancient people understood the sacred strangeness of dreams. Egyptians thought them messages from the gods, written in images rather than words. The Greeks built temples where people slept, hoping to receive healing visions. And indigenous storytellers around the world spoke of dreams as a bridge between the living and the unseen. In truth, they were all partly right. Dreams are messages, but the sender and receiver are both you. The signals that create your dreams come from deep within the limbic system, where emotion lives. During REM, those circuits glow brighter than when you're awake. Meanwhile, the logical prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, dims. The storyteller takes over, the editor falls asleep. The result is freedom. The brain no longer needs to explain. It only needs to express. You might think that such chaos would be meaningless. Yet the opposite is true. When scientists deprive people of REM sleep, their emotions grow sharp, their memory dulls, and their focus fades. Without dreams, the mind begins to lose balance, as though a nightly tide had stopped flowing. We need dreams not to escape reality, but to digest it. Each night while you sleep, the hippocampus and amygdala exchange information, replaying experiences, deciding what to keep, what to soften, what to let dissolve. The scenes of your day replay as sketches. Emotions fade or transform. By morning, the raw footage of living has been edited into understanding. Dreams, in that sense, are the mind's private workshop for emotional regulation. It's comforting, isn't it? To know that even when you rest, your brain keeps caring for you. Like a quiet friend cleaning up the party after everyone has gone home. You don't have to do anything. Just breathe. Just drift. The mind will take care of the rest. Some scientists believe dreaming is older than language, that even animals dream. Cats twitch their paws in sleep, chasing phantom prey. Dogs whimper softly, running through invisible fields. Birds' eyes move rapidly beneath their lids, as if flying through remembered skies. It makes sense. Dreaming is practice, a rehearsal for being alive. A young animal learns to navigate the world by simulating it during rest. The brain's internal theater becomes a training ground, risk-free, endless, imaginative. Humans simply added poetry to the process. Think of your dreams as stories written by your subconscious, each one shaped by what your conscious mind ignored. During the day you filter, discarding thoughts that seem too strange, too uncomfortable. At night, those thoughts find the stage they were denied. The result is surreal, but healing. Your psyche rebalancing itself through art. When you dream, your brain experiments with identity. One night you're yourself. Another, you're someone else. Sometimes you're many people at once. The borders between I and you dissolve. It's rehearsal for empathy, for remembering that the self is not as fixed as it seems. You wake with perspective softened, the edges of ego blurred. Dreams remind you that who you are is fluid, a melody, not a statue. Dreams also teach creativity. The same neural circuits that fuel imagination in waking life ignite more fiercely during REM. The brain samples fragments of stored memory and combines them in novel ways. Recombination, scientists call it. It's the same process used in invention, art, and discovery. When Paul McCartney dreamt the melody for Yesterday, or when Mary Shelley dreamt the scene that became Frankenstein, they were experiencing the mind's nightly recombination at its peak. You do this too every night, not for fame or art, but to maintain the balance of imagination and reason that makes life vibrant. Sometimes dreams turn dark, nightmares, flashes of fear or confusion. But even these serve a purpose. They're emotional fire drills, simulations of threat that train the brain to react calmly when danger is real. Evolution built this rehearsal hall for survival. So when you wake from a bad dream, heart racing, remember, it was practice. The orchestra was testing its notes. The stage was safe all along. And then there are lucid dreams, rare, luminous moments when the dreamer realizes they are dreaming. In those instants, the mind achieves something profound, self-awareness within imagination. Scientists find that during lucidity, the prefrontal cortex flickers awake again, joining the sleeping networks in collaboration. It's as if the conductor steps onto the dream stage and bows to the musicians, saying, "Morning, I know you're all me." Lucid dreamers often describe an overwhelming sense of awe, not power. They don't control the dream. They participate in it consciously. The experience can feel spiritual or deeply peaceful because it mirrors a truth about waking life. We are both creators and participants in our own stories. Now, as you lie here, hovering between wakefulness and dream, your own rehearsal may be beginning. The boundaries of thought are softening. The orchestra of neurons that once sang the day's bright melody is shifting to a slower, more mysterious tune. Perhaps soon you'll find yourself walking somewhere familiar, yet impossible. Maybe a place for memory, lit differently. Maybe a voice will speak that you somehow already know. Don't worry about meaning. Dreams don't explain, they evoke. Their language is older than logic. Imagine your brain right now. Waves of electrical activity sweeping like wind across the cortex, sparks leaping between hemispheres, emotion and imagery intertwining like ribbons of light. It's an astonishing sight, a quiet storm of creativity taking place entirely within you. Every neuron that fires contributes to your private film, your nightly lesson in being human, and when morning comes, you will carry traces of it, not in clear recollection, perhaps, but in mood, in softness, in readiness to live again. So tonight, as the curtain rises within your mind, let it. You don't need to stay awake for the performance. You can fall asleep mid-scene. The story will continue without you. Your brain has been telling itself stories since before language, before birth, before the first sunrise you ever saw. It knows what to do. Let it wander through its theaters of color and light. Let it practice tomorrow's emotions in the safety of darkness. Let it sing through the night, unobserved, unjudged. You are the actor, the audience, and the dream itself. If the dreaming mind is an artist, the waking mind is an architect. Both create, but in different materials. One uses imagery and intuition, the other shapes with reason and intention. Tonight we stand at the threshold between the two, where imagination begins to solidify into structure and thought finds its form. Picture your brain as a city built over a lifetime. Bridges of association, towers of memory, gardens of rest. Every streetlight is a neuron, every road a pathway of connection. During the day, the city hums with traffic, decisions rushing across synapses, impulses flowing through the circuitry of choice. At its center stands the architect's chamber, the prefrontal cortex. It isn't large, not compared to the rest of the brain. It rests quietly behind your forehead, just a few centimeters thick, yet it holds the keys to planning, prediction, and personality. It is the part of you that pauses before acting, that imagines before speaking, that builds invisible scaffolding around your desires so that they can become possible. It is the architect of your waking world, the mind's daylight maker. Inside this region, billions of neurons collaborate in slow precision. They balance impulse against reason, imagination against consequence. When you decide to do something tomorrow, or weigh kindness against anger, or trace a thought backward to its cause, it's this part of your brain that takes the compass in hand. It doesn't work alone. Like any great architect, it consults other guilds, the hippocampus for blueprints of memory, the limbic system for emotional texture, the motor cortex for execution. Together, they draft the inner structures of every moment you live. But the prefrontal cortex does something subtler, too. It creates time, not the ticking of clocks, the felt sense of before and after. Without it, life would be an endless present. Every choice, every regret, every dream of future existence, all come from this quiet architect that sketches the arrow of time across your mind. Sometimes you can sense it working when you stare at the ceiling and imagine tomorrow, when you make a plan or wonder how today became what it is. That's the prefrontal cortex stepping back from the canvas to see the whole picture. It isn't emotionless. It simply sees farther. It knows that impulse is temporary, that patience builds beauty. That's why deep thought feels slow. The architect is tracing every possibility before choosing which to build. Even as you listen now, your architect is active, deciding which words to keep, which ideas to anchor in understanding. You may feel yourself drifting, but that too is part of the design. The mind can rest and work at once. Think of creativity as a dialogue between dreamer and architect. The dreamer offers visions, wild, colorful, untamed. The architect listens and translates those visions into structures that can stand in the daylight. When you write, when you solve, when you comfort someone with words that feel both honest and kind, that's both voices in harmony. Neuroscience sees this duet as cooperation between hemispheres and networks, the default mode, where imagination wanders, and the executive network, where it finds focus. When they overlap, something beautiful happens. A thought becomes real. You can feel that process in the rhythm of deep work, or in those quiet moments when inspiration lands fully formed, as if you'd been building it unconsciously for years. The brain had been drawing blueprints in secret, and one day it simply opens the door. But even architects need rest. At night, as dreams return, the prefrontal cortex steps back. Its strict lines blur, its equations dissolve. That's why dreams defy logic. The architect is sleeping, the artist is free. And yet by morning they reconcile. The architect walks through the ruins of dream and says, "Ah, I see what you meant," then begins to build. This conversation between order and imagination is constant, even when you're unaware. The balance of both makes you human. Too much structure, and you become rigid. Too much dream, and you drift. Together, they create wisdom. Flexible, curious, grounded. The architect also designs empathy. That might surprise you, but it's true. When you imagine another person's mind with what they think, what they feel, you are modeling a world that isn't your own. You're running a simulation, constructing a map of someone else's reality. That takes the same kind of foresight and planning the prefrontal cortex excels at. It predicts not just events, but emotions, outcomes, and subtleties of tone. To understand another, your brain must build their architecture within you, a temporary bridge of compassion. That's why kindness is such complex work, neurologically speaking. It requires imagination and control, logic and softness, design and surrender. The architect of thought is not made of stone. It's made of connection. If you've ever caught yourself replaying an argument or crafting the perfect response hours later, that's your architect sketching revisions. If you've ever felt the thrill of solving something that once seemed impossible, that's the architect finishing a design and standing quietly back to admire it. And if you've ever realized you were wrong, truly wrong, and changed, that's the architect rebuilding. It's humbling, isn't it? The way growth happens inside the same gray folds that once built your certainties. The brain is endlessly willing to redesign itself. That's what neuroplasticity really means, not just learning, but forgiveness written in biology. The architect is never finished drawing. Let's linger here a moment, where the hum of thought grows softer. Imagine your prefrontal cortex like a studio lit by evening light. Drafts of ideas are pinned across its walls, half-complete plans for tomorrow, sketches of old regrets, blueprints of new possibilities. In one corner, the architect is resting, head on folded arms, dreaming within its own designs. The room is quiet, except for the faint scratching of neurons making small adjustments, connecting, pruning, refining. The work continues even in stillness. The architecture of thought is alive. Perhaps if you listen closely, you can feel that same quiet building within you. The reorganization of understanding, the slow crystallization of insight that happens when you stop trying, that's the secret. The mind builds best in calm. People sometimes imagine the prefrontal cortex as the seat of intelligence. But intelligence is not what it builds. It's what flows through what it builds. The architect doesn't own the light. It simply shapes windows for it to pass through. That light is awareness, consciousness, moving through the structures of self. And so, the architect's true art is humility, to build forms sturdy enough to hold wonder, but open enough to let wonder change them. That's why wisdom feels like clarity, not certainty. Like standing in a cathedral whose walls are made of air. Perhaps tonight, your own architect is drawing softly in the dark, rearranging the structures of your day, rebalancing equations of hope and worry. Maybe it's designing new ways to see tomorrow, ways that don't yet have words. You don't need to supervise. Just breathe. Your neurons are tracing arcs and lines across the invisible paper of your mind, turning experience into architecture, architecture into understanding. Tomorrow, when you wake and feel that subtle sense of renewal, a little more patience, a little more space inside your thoughts. That's the architect's overnight renovation. Before we leave this quiet studio, consider how miraculous it is that thought can think about itself, that the architect can stand inside its own building and wonder how the ceiling was made, the mind contemplating the mind, the structure admiring its own design, its endless recursion and yet peaceful, because curiosity and awareness, like dream and logic, are meant to coexist. You are not just the architect. You are also the blueprint. Inside the vast concert hall of your mind, there are messengers moving quietly from one musician to another. They don't speak in language or melody. They whisper in molecules. These are your neurotransmitters, the delicate couriers that carry thought across the smallest gaps in your brain. Every emotion, every flicker of focus, every sigh of calm begins as chemistry. And yet, for something so mechanical, their work feels almost spiritual. They are the invisible wind that keeps the lantern of curiosity burning, the orchestra playing, the dream unfolding. Picture it. A neuron reaches out, stops just short of touching another. The space between them, that tiny synaptic cleft, is where the magic happens. One neuron releases a breath of molecules, the next receives it. That breath might carry excitement or serenity, or the spark of understanding. Each whisper shapes what you feel right now. Let's meet a few of these quiet alchemists. First, dopamine, the explorer's messenger. When curiosity awakens, it is dopamine that travels between cells saying, "Yes, go on. This could be wonderful." It rewards movement toward the new, and it hums in pleasure when you learn something that clicks. Without it, the world would lose its color. With too much, the world rushes by in a blur, so the brain measures it carefully, like pouring light into a cup that must never overflow. Then there is serotonin, the balancer. While dopamine reaches for the future, serotonin anchors you in the present. It hums through your midbrain and body, shaping patience, gratitude, ease. When you walk slowly and feel content for no reason, serotonin is whispering softly, "This moment is enough." And in the deep night, when the world dims and the air feels thick with stillness, melatonin takes its turn. Released from the pineal gland, it is the mind's lullaby, the chemical dusk that tells every cell to dim its lights. It doesn't shout. It drifts through the bloodstream like moonlight spreading over water. Together, these messengers form a conversation, chemistry and consciousness entwined. You might think of them as three quiet friends working the night shift inside your skull. Dopamine keeping curiosity alive, serotonin smoothing its edges, and melatonin dimming the lights when it's time to rest. Their dialogue is constant, and you are the song they create. It's easy to forget sometimes that what we call feelings are also patterns of molecules. Joy is not just laughter. It's serotonin greeting oxytocin in a brief, shining moment of harmony. Love is dopamine and norepinephrine dancing through the limbic ballroom. Calm is GABA, the gentle peacekeeper, telling overactive neurons to soften their tempo. Even sorrow, as heavy as it feels, is chemistry performing its necessary symphony. Cortisol and adrenaline making sure you notice what matters, then fading as healing begins. Your body is not betraying you when you feel deeply. It's simply speaking in its ancient language. Think of the synapse, that gap between neurons, as a shoreline. Neurotransmitters are waves crossing from one side to the other, carrying messages shaped by experience. Every sensation, every word you understand, every image that flickers in the dark as you drift toward sleep, all of it depends on those molecular tides. When you learn something new, synapses strengthen, making the crossing easier next time. When you rest, others weaken, clearing pathways for quiet. The ocean of the brain is always changing, yet it never dries. You can sense the whispers even without noticing them. When a sudden calm spreads through you after a sigh, serotonin has just completed its gentle circuit. When curiosity stirs after hearing something new, dopamine is already racing between neurons, lighting up reward pathways like lanterns in the fog. When sleep begins to blur the edges of your thoughts, melatonin is washing through your veins like a slow tide, each chemical doing its part, each voice perfectly timed. If you could shrink small enough to watch this process unfold, it would look like a galaxy made of sparks. Vesicles inside neurons releasing shimmering dust into the void, receptors lighting up in answer. A chemical ballet rehearsed billions of times per second. The orchestra from before still plays, but now you're close enough to see the individual notes. And through it all, there is rhythm, pulses of release, moments of rest, a slow oscillation between excitement and peace. That rhythm is the language of balance. The whispering chemicals don't act alone. They respond to light, to food, to thought. A sunrise triggers serotonin. A hug releases oxytocin. The smell of something familiar can unlock dopamine's memory circuits. Even the slow act of breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, sends signals that shift neurotransmitters across the entire nervous system. You're not at the mercy of these whispers. You are part of their dialogue. Every gentle breath, every calm moment of gratitude changes the balance of chemistry in real time. Your mind listens to your body, and your body listens back. When you think about it, emotions aren't interruptions in reason. They're the foundation of it. The architect of thought builds with the materials these molecules provide. Without dopamine's spark, you wouldn't care enough to plan. Without serotonin's calm, you couldn't decide wisely. Without melatonin's rest, none of it would survive till morning. They are the builders beneath the builder, the chemistry beneath the philosophy. Sometimes, people worry that describing emotion in scientific terms makes it smaller, as though naming the molecules robs them of mystery. But the opposite is true. Knowing the music doesn't make it less beautiful. It lets you hear the harmony more deeply. When you understand that a simple molecule like serotonin can create the feeling of awe you get while watching stars, you realize how intimate you are with the universe. Those atoms, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, were forged in long-dead suns. The same stardust that burns in nebulae now flows through your veins, whispering contentment, so when you feel peaceful, you are literally experiencing the physics of ancient light. Each neurotransmitter has a personality. Dopamine is the poet, restless and romantic, forever chasing the next horizon. Serotonin is the philosopher, content, balanced, grounded in the present. Melatonin is the caretaker, closing the windows, dimming the lights, tucking the world into bed. And there are others too. Adrenaline, the sudden flare of courage. Oxytocin, the embrace. Endorphins, the laughter that dulls pain. Together they form the chemistry of humanity. Every act of kindness, every spark of curiosity, every quiet joy, a combination of whispers. The orchestra you heard before now plays with these molecules as notes. Excitement, reflection, peace, release. As you lie here, these whispers continue. Somewhere in your bloodstream, melatonin is already deepening its hold. GABA moves through neural circuits, slowing the tempo. Serotonin steadies your heartbeat, reminding you that you're safe. If you listen closely, you might even feel it, a faint internal hush. The sound of a system in balance. This is the biochemistry of serenity. It's easy to think of yourself as separate from your body, as a mind floating above a machine. But the truth is softer. The machine is the mind, and the mind is the machine, woven together by whispers. Every neuron that fires is a thought. Every molecule that crosses a synapse is a decision. Every chemical wave is a feeling becoming real. You are a conversation between biology and meaning, matter and metaphor. That's what makes the whispering chemicals so poetic. They are physics dreaming of love. Sometimes, when you cry, it's not sadness but release. Oxytocin and prolactin soothing the nervous system, washing cortisol away. When you laugh, endorphins cascade, rewarding your body for joy. When you hold someone's hand, small molecules signal safety, lowering the pulse, easing the mind. Each gesture, each emotion, each pause in the day is chemical, but never only chemical. It's also art, ritual, and evolution, nature's way of saying, stay connected. Even silence has its own signature. When you sit quietly, not thinking, not trying, your brain's chemistry shifts into balance. Dopamine calm, serotonin steady, melatonin gently rising. This is the state meditation seeks. Neurochemical equilibrium, the body's hymn to itself. The monks who sit in stillness for hours, the artists who lose track of time while creating, their neurotransmitters sing in harmony a song of flow. You can feel that same song now in the slow rhythm of your breath, in the soft heaviness of your eyes. The whispers are in tune, and when morning comes, these same chemicals will rise and fall again in their timeless dance. Light will reach your eyes. Melatonin will fade. Serotonin will bloom. Dopamine will stretch awake. The orchestra will retune for another day of thought, movement, and gentle wonder. You don't have to remember any of this. Your body already knows you can let the chemistry take care of you. Let dopamine rest. Let serotonin hum. Let melatonin dim the stage. The performance is ending for now, and the night takes over as conductor. If your eyes are heavy, let them close. The whispers will continue in your absence, keeping balance in the dark. Even as you drift, a billion small voices will be speaking softly between your neurons, carrying tiny messages of calm and care. They'll tell each other what to do, when to slow, when to soothe, when to dream. They'll guide you safely through the night, molecule by molecule, sigh by sigh. This is the science of tenderness. This is how you fall asleep and remain whole. There is a mirror inside your skull, not made of glass or silver, but of thought, a smooth, invisible surface where awareness turns back to gaze upon itself. When you close your eyes, the world disappears, but the watcher remains. And somehow that watcher can also notice being the watcher. This simple, impossible loop, the mind reflecting the mind, is consciousness, the brightest and most mysterious light we know. The mirror doesn't form instantly. It grows. A newborn doesn't yet recognize its reflection. It feels hunger, warmth, sound, but not self. Then, slowly, the brain builds it. Neurons in the parietal and temporal lobes begin mapping body to space. The prefrontal cortex starts linking sensation with story. That sound is me. This hand belongs to me. By the time a child touches their reflection in a mirror and smiles, the loop is complete. Awareness has folded inward, recognizing its own shape. The mind has met itself. It's a fragile magic, this ability to look at thought and know it's yours. And yet, it's what gives us imagination, empathy, and the gentle ache of being alive. Scientists call this metacognition, but that word feels too sharp for something so tender. Metacognition simply means the mind thinking about itself, but the experience of it feels almost sacred. It's what allows you to wonder, who am I? And know that the question itself is part of the answer. At the neurological level, it's a collaboration between the prefrontal cortex, which monitors thought, and the posterior cingulate cortex, which anchors your sense of self. Together they form what researchers call the default mode network, the brain's resting hum of self-reflection. But to you, it just feels like life, the background voice that narrates your existence softly, constantly. I am here. I am thinking. I am me. If you could stand inside that mirror, you'd see thoughts passing like clouds across its surface. Memories, images, feelings, all floating through. You don't choose most of them. They simply arise. The mirror reflects whatever appears without judgment. In meditation, people learn to polish this mirror, not to erase the reflections, but to see them clearly. The more still you become, the smoother the surface grows, until you can sense thoughts before they turn into stories. At that point, self-awareness becomes serenity. The brain supports this calm through rhythm, slow alpha waves spreading from the occipital lobes to the prefrontal cortex, lowering heart rate, softening reactivity. The self becomes translucent, still there but not solid. It's a paradox. The clearer the mirror, the less it reflects itself. Sometimes the mirror becomes fogged by worry, anger, haste. In those moments, thoughts multiply and collide, each one reflecting another until the image becomes confusion. Neuroscientists see this as overactivation of the default mode network. Too much self, too little world. It's why thinking about yourself too often can make you unhappy. The brain loops inward, replaying fears and regrets, until the mirror stops showing reality and begins showing only projection. But the cure isn't to shatter the mirror. It's to open the window beside it, paying attention outward, to sound, to breath, to the texture of air on skin, rebalances the brain's networks. The salience network takes over, connecting you to the present moment. Slowly the fog lifts. You don't lose yourself. You find a quieter version. The mirror doesn't only reflect the self, it reflects others. When you see someone smile and feel warmth, or watch someone fall and flinch, your mirror neurons are lighting up, quietly simulating their experience. The brain rehearses empathy as easily as movement. This shared reflection blurs the line between self and world. It's why emotion spreads through crowds, why compassion feels instinctive, why loneliness aches. The mirror is communal, a window disguised as a boundary. You're never entirely alone inside your head. Your neurons are always practicing connection. Imagine now the mind as a hall of mirrors. Each reflection represents a version of you, the child, the thinker, the dreamer, the observer. They stand side by side, overlapping, fading into one another. None is false. All are fragments of one consciousness shifting through time. Every day, one mirror brightens while another dims. The self you are right now is simply the one most illuminated by attention. The beauty of the brain is its willingness to let these selves coexist. The same neural networks that recall your past can also simulate your future. Memory and imagination use the same architecture. The mind rehearses possibilities using the same stage on which it remembers, a single theater where time bends. That's why nostalgia feels like déjà vu and dreams feel like memory. The mirrors share the same light. Consciousness itself, that feeling of being, remains one of science's deepest mysteries. Some theories say it's an emergent property born from complexity. Others whisper that it's fundamental, that the universe itself might be conscious. But whatever the truth, the subjective miracle remains. The brain, made of atoms and water and chemistry, somehow knows that it exists. You, made of stardust, are aware of being made of stardust. It's as if the cosmos built a mirror to look back at itself and called it you. And perhaps that's why awareness feels so quiet at night. When the noise of daylight fades, when there's nothing left to respond to or control, the mirror becomes still again. Thoughts slow, self-talk softens, and what remains is pure observation, not of things, but of being itself. This is the space between identity and peace. You don't have to try to reach it. You're already in it. You're hearing this voice, knowing you're hearing it, and feeling the calm of both. That's the mirror at rest. Sometimes, as you fall asleep, a strange thing happens. The sense of I flickers. The mirror dims. Awareness of self begins to dissolve, replaced by awareness of dream. The prefrontal cortex, your architect of thought, steps back, allowing the rest of the brain to create freely. The watcher becomes the watched. This dissolution can feel like a small death, but it's actually the mind's renewal. The mirror goes dark only so it can shine again at dawn. In some philosophies, this moment is enlightenment, the realization that self-awareness and the world it observes are not separate. The mind and its mirror are made of the same light. When you recognize that, even briefly, the reflection becomes infinite. The sense of boundary falls away. You are thought, and you are also the space around it. You are memory and also forgetting. That is the calm beyond identity, the awareness beneath awareness. You don't have to reach that state tonight. You don't need to polish the mirror perfectly or silence the inner voice. It's enough to know that you can look inward, and that what you find there is both ordinary and miraculous. Each thought is a ripple, each breath a clearing of the surface. Right now, your neurons are humming in slow, synchronized rhythm. The mirror shines softly in the dark, reflecting nothing but peace. If your eyelids are heavy, that's exactly as it should be. The mirror can rest too. It doesn't need to watch forever. It has done its work to remind you that you exist, that you can reflect, that you can see. Let the reflection fade now. Let the mirror dim. There is a moment each night just before sleep when the boundary between thinking and dreaming melts. The mind drifts like a slow tide between two shores, one solid with reason, the other luminous and uncertain. In that moment, you begin to wonder whether the two sides are really different at all. What if waking and dreaming are not opposites, but overlapping layers of one continuous experience? What if you were never fully awake or fully asleep, but always, in some quiet way, dreaming? Science suggests that might be true. Every perception you've ever had, the color of a sunrise, the sound of your own name, the warmth of a hand, exists only because your brain created it. Light touches your retina, sound waves move the air, but it is your neural circuits that transform them into sight and sound. The external world is not delivered whole. It is composed moment by the organ behind your eyes. When you open them in the morning, you are not seeing reality directly. You are seeing a dream your mind has agreed upon with your senses, a shared hallucination stable enough to live in. Neuroscientists call it predictive processing. Your brain does not passively receive the world. It predicts it, guessing what is likely to happen next, and adjusting those guesses against incoming data. You see, hear, and feel what the brain expects to be there. It's astonishingly efficient and mostly accurate, but the realization changes everything. What you think of as reality is the most convincing dream you'll ever have. It's so consistent that you forget you're creating it, even now as you lie listening. The same networks that construct your daytime world are quietly humming. The thalamus, the gateway of sensory information, keeps a faint vigil, letting through enough sound to register safety, but filtering out what's unneeded. The visual cortex rests, yet it glows faintly in readiness. Deep in the brainstem, the REM circuits, the ones that conjure dreams, are never fully off. They pulse softly, waiting for night's full permission to begin the show. So maybe you were always dreaming, just at different brightnesses of imagination. During the day, the dream is loud and agreed upon. At night, it's private, intimate, illogical. Both are real because both are built from the same language of neurons. Consider how quickly you drift between these worlds. A single yawn, a slower blink, and the orchestra of consciousness changes key. The prefrontal cortex, seat of logic, eases its control. The limbic system, keeper of feeling and memory, begins to lead. As your body relaxes, the ratio of serotonin to melatonin shifts, guiding the brain toward REM's inner theater. The transition is seamless, practiced by evolution for millions of years. You don't step from waking into dreaming. You glide as if descending a spiral staircase lit by candlelight. In that descent, strange things happen. The mind begins to replay its own memories in fragments. Bits of yesterday attach themselves to deeper recollections, forming impossible combinations. A friend sitting in a childhood classroom, the sky the wrong color, gravity with a sense of humor. The brain, free from sensory constraint, experiments. It recombines. It rehearses tomorrow using the puzzle pieces of the past. To the scientist, this is simulation, neural rehearsal for creativity and survival. To the poet, it is evidence that the soul likes to play. Both are right. Dreaming is the art of the brain becoming painter, director, and audience all at once. It's what allows you to imagine possibilities you've never lived, to process emotions you never voiced, to test versions of yourself you haven't yet become. And what if waking life is simply that same process extended? When you plan, you're dreaming forward. When you remember, you're dreaming backward. When you imagine what another person feels, you're dreaming sideways, slipping into someone else's inner theater. Consciousness is continuous, improvisation, an unending creative act that only seems separate because we insist on calling some of it not real. The philosopher David Hume once wrote that the self is a bundle of perceptions, always changing, never the same twice. Modern neuroscience agrees. The I you feel is a construction, refreshed every few seconds by the interaction of brain networks. The story you tell about who you are is stable only because the brain edits it relentlessly, removing contradictions the way a dream edits impossible events into coherence. The storyteller and the story are the same. Maybe that's why déjà vu feels so haunting. For a split second, the dream misfires. The editor forgets to erase the repetition, and you glimpse the machinery underneath. The familiar strangeness of the moment reminds you that experience is a pattern, not a place. The more scientists learn, the more metaphysical it all becomes. The visual world, they say, is generated in the occipital cortex a tenth of a second after light hits the eye. The brain then backdates the event so it feels instantaneous. You are always living a fraction of a second in the past. Your consciousness delayed by its own processing. Waking life, therefore, is a memory of itself. You exist in a constant echo. Doesn't that sound like dreaming? Dreams, after all, have no true present tense. They unfold in a continuous now, unaware of time's arithmetic. And so does consciousness. The flow of thought you call now is stitched together from the brain's endless attempts to synchronize perception, emotion, and memory into one smooth ribbon. The result feels immediate, but it's choreography. A dance performed so well you forget its performance. If you could step outside yourself and watch your own mind at work, you'd see layers of reality stacking like sheets of light. The outermost glows with sensory detail, the shape of your room, the softness of the pillow beneath your head. Beneath that lies memory, filling in what the eyes can't see. Deeper still are emotion and intuition, coloring every scene with warmth or distance. At the center, awareness reflects upon all the layers at once. That reflection, your sense of I, is the most convincing illusion of all, a dream that dreams it's awake. But illusions aren't lies. They are how truth makes itself visible. Your perception of self allows the brain to coordinate its billions of parts into a single coherent being. Without that illusion, you couldn't navigate the world. The self is a necessary fiction, like the character an actor wears so the play can happen. It's not false, it's functional. And like any good dream, it changes as the story does. When you wake each morning, a new version of you takes the stage. The old one has dissolved into the sea of REM. The continuity you feel between them is memory stitching, delicate but sufficient. The dreamer never fully disappears. They simply rewrite themselves at dawn. Maybe that's why the world outside sometimes feels like a continuation of dream logic. Coincidences, intuitions, small moments of awe, all of them carry the signature of an imagination still half asleep. The same circuits that sculpt your nightly visions remain active by day, translating sensory input into meaning, weaving narrative from noise. You don't escape dreaming. You domesticate it. Think of how a sudden memory can flood you with emotion. The scent of rain bringing back a decade, a song returning, a lost friend. Those are dreamlike intrusions, fragments of your inner theater projecting themselves onto daylight. The boundary blurs because it was never meant to be firm. Even love feels dreamlike when you look closely. When two people lock eyes and time seems to vanish, that's not metaphor. It's neurochemistry. The prefrontal cortex, usually so vigilant, quiets. Dopamine surges, temporal perception slows. You and the other person literally begin to synchronize heartbeat and micro-expression. For a few seconds, two separate minds share one simulation. That's the brain's way of reminding you that separateness is a convenient illusion. You see, everything alive is dreaming together. The trees aligning with sunlight, the tides following the moon, your neurons following rhythm. Consciousness may not be confined to the skull at all, but threaded through reality itself, flickering in patterns of energy and matter. Each brain is a window, a localized storm of awareness through which the universe observes itself. You are that window right now, open to the night, listening to words that your own neurons translate into meaning. The story isn't happening outside you, it's blooming inside you. The voice you hear is partly mine and mostly yours. You are reading yourself into existence. Let's linger in that thought. Every sensory experience, every heartbeat of curiosity begins and ends as electrical potential. Yet somehow that electricity produces color, taste, memory, tenderness. The same physics that moves stars creates the feeling of falling in love or missing home. Matter dreams of itself and calls the result consciousness. Maybe this is what the mystics meant when they said the world is made of mind. Not metaphorically, but literally. If reality exists only as experienced, then perception is creation. The cosmos needs witnesses, and you are one of them. Your awareness completes the equation. In the long history of thought, humans have struggled with this idea. Are we dreaming or are we real? Philosophers from India to Greece, from Descartes to modern cognitive scientists, have circled the same paradox. Yet, the most peaceful conclusion is also the simplest. It doesn't matter. Whether the universe is an external fact or an internal projection, you are still here, feeling it. The warmth, the awe, the yearning. These are the same in any ontology. Existence, real or dreamed, is still astonishing. Imagine consciousness as a vast ocean, each mind a wave rising for a while, catching light, then dissolving back. The dream of individuality is the crest. The shared dream is the sea itself. When you sleep, the wave subsides, merging again with the whole. When you wake, it rises anew, shaped differently, but made of the same water. The dream never ends. It only changes form. That's why moments of deep rest or meditation feel infinite. For an instant, the wave remembers the ocean. The sense of self loosens and all boundaries fade into calm. You might have felt that before, watching stars, listening to rain, holding someone quietly. Those are glimpses of the continuous dream, the one underneath all the others. Even your heartbeat follows the rhythm of that larger tide. Each contraction begins with an electrical signal, the sinoatrial node sending a pulse through muscle and blood. It is as though a drummer deep within the body keeps time for the mind's symphony. When you sleep, that drummer slows the tempo, allowing the dream to unfold in longer measures. The nervous system hums its lullaby, the breath becomes the melody, and the body becomes the cradle in which consciousness rocks itself to peace. You don't command any of it. The dream breathes you. Some scientists speculate that the purpose of consciousness itself is dreamlike rehearsal. Life in this view is evolution's way of imagining possible futures. A creature that can simulate outcomes before acting gains an advantage. Over millennia, that capacity deepened until it became us, beings who can imagine whole worlds, ask who they are, and weep at their own stories. The dream learned to dream about dreaming. Even now, your brain is doing that. As you listen, networks responsible for imagination activate as though you were seeing everything described. The neurons that process reality are the same ones that process fantasy. The distinction is less about truth and more about agreement, a shared hallucination we call waking life. When you dream tonight, those same neurons will light again, painting new worlds from the palette of memory. The difference will be that the architect, your prefrontal cortex, will sleep, allowing creation without critique. The dream will flow freely, reweaving identity, emotion, and insight. Tomorrow, fragments of that story may influence your waking choices without you ever knowing. Dreams leave fingerprints on the day, and so the idea that you were always dreaming isn't bleak. It's tender. It means reality is participatory, that imagination is not escape but engagement. The dreamer and the dream sustain each other. Perhaps that's what consciousness has been seeking all along, to experience itself fully, to see its own reflection not in mirrors of glass, but in the eyes of other dreamers, in the patterns of clouds, in the gentle hum of neurons firing through the dark, the universe dreaming through you, discovering its own beauty. Now, as your body grows heavier and your breath deepens, notice how the edges of thought begin to blur. You're not losing consciousness. You're shifting layers. The waking dream is dimming, and the nocturnal one is preparing its stage. Behind your closed eyes, colors begin to gather, not yet shapes, not yet stories, just potential. Let them come. Don't name them. The same processes that built your daylight world will build this one too. There is no need to steer. The current knows the way. In a few minutes, perhaps less, your brain will enter REM. Waves of activity will roll through the cortex like tides of light. The orchestra will play its secret symphony. You'll wander through memories, through impossible places, through the architecture of emotion. And in the morning, you'll wake carrying traces of those travels, soft insights, lighter feelings, maybe even a sense of wonder you can't explain. You'll have rehearsed being alive all over again. So maybe you were always dreaming. Maybe every heartbeat has been part of one long, intricate story told by consciousness to itself. You can stop asking which parts are real. They all are. The laughter, the pain, the mystery, each one a scene in the same vast play. As you sink deeper into rest, let that be your comfort. You don't need to wake fully or sleep completely. You're already home in the dream that made you. Breathe slowly. Let thought dissolve into sensation, sensation into stillness. The orchestra will continue, the chemicals will whisper, the mind will paint. You were always dreaming. You will always dream. There comes a point in every night when curiosity, the most loyal companion of thought, begins to tire. You've followed it across continents of ideas, through the landscapes of the mind, neurons like constellations, dreams like rivers, consciousness like a mirror reflecting itself. But now curiosity yawns. The orchestra of neurons that once hummed with inquiry begins to slow. The tempo changes, the lights dim. You've learned enough for one day, and so begins the slow collapse into peace. This is not a sudden fall, but a graceful descent, a process written into your biology as surely as sunrise follows night. The body knows how to rest. The mind only needs to remember how to follow. The descent begins. Imagine yourself lying back, feeling the subtle weight of gravity, that quiet pull that reminds you you belong here, on this small blue planet spinning gently in the dark. The Earth itself is turning towards sleep. Half the world has already surrendered. Even the air seems to hush, as though the atmosphere itself is exhaling. Your breath joins that rhythm. Inhale, expansion. Exhale, release. The same oscillation that moves galaxies moves through your chest, gentle and ancient. Each breath smooths the ripples of thought. The nervous system begins its nightly transformation. The sympathetic branch, the one that drives action and alertness, lowers its flame. The parasympathetic branch rises like a tide, guided by the vagus nerve, that long, wandering thread of calm connecting your brain to your heart, lungs, and organs. It whispers, "Rest now, it's time to restore." Your heart hears it first. Its pace slows, a drummer softening the rhythm. Blood pressure eases. The muscles of the face unclench, the jaw releases, the shoulders drift lower. The orchestra is quieting, the biology of letting go. If you could see your brain right now, you would witness a magnificent shift. The beta waves of wakefulness, quick, busy, purposeful, begin to dissolve into alpha, then theta, then delta. Like waves leaving the shore, they stretch wider, slower, more spacious. Alpha is the twilight between thought and dream. It's the brain's sigh of relief, the moment the world stops asking for performance. It feels like the dimming of a lamp, warm, amber, forgiving. Theta follows soon after, deep imagination, the realm where memory and intuition intertwine. This is the frequency of creativity, of meditation, of pre-dreams. Then, finally, delta, the deepest of all. Long, slow, majestic. Delta waves roll across the cortex like gentle storms, cleansing and rebuilding as they pass. In delta sleep, the brain repairs itself at the molecular level. Proteins are synthesized, toxins flushed away by cerebrospinal rivers, synapses rebalanced. The science of sleep is, in truth, a kind of sacred geometry, oscillations and chemicals arranged with perfect precision. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, is coordinated with this slow celestial clockwork. The body's quiet intelligence, your body knows what to do. The moment you close your eyes, a cascade of signals begins. Melatonin seeps into your bloodstream, lowering your body temperature by a fraction, just enough to cue the mind that night has begun. The hypothalamus, deep in the brain center, adjusts your internal thermostat. The skin on your hands and feet warms slightly as blood flows outward. It's nature's gentle trick. Warmth in the extremities cools the core, inviting sleep. The muscles loosen. The eyelids grow heavier. The diaphragm slows its rhythm. Even your thoughts begin to align with the pulse of your body, like small boats drifting into the same current. There's something profoundly humbling about this, that rest is not an achievement, but a return to equilibrium. You don't make yourself sleep. You allow sleep to make itself through you. The same intelligence that grew your bones, that keeps your heart beating without instruction, now turns its attention to rest. Let it. The mind's gentle, fading. The mind resists at first, as minds do. It tries to stay lit, like a candle in the wind, chasing the next thought. What about tomorrow, it asks. Did I finish enough today? But peace isn't found through answering those questions. It's found through realizing you don't need to. The answers can wait. The questions can wait. You can feel the shift, the quiet joy of not needing to think anymore. Thoughts slow from sentences to fragments to feelings. Words lose their shape, becoming texture, rhythm, hum. If you listen to your own thoughts now, they sound softer, rounder. They arrive with more space between them. Each one rises like a bubble and pops in silence. This is your consciousness untangling itself from language. The prefrontal cortex, which all day has labored to organize reality into logic, finally takes its rest. It hands the reins back to older, quieter regions, the thalamus, the brainstem, The limbic circuits that have been here since long before language, the rational mind, steps aside. The ancient mind takes over, and in that surrender, something beautiful happens. The sense of self begins to blur. You are no longer the thinker observing thoughts. You are the breath, the pulse, the warmth in the dark. The boundaries that once defined you, your name, your history, your worries, all begin to dissolve into something wider. The ocean returns. Imagine the self as a coastline. All day, waves of thought crash against it, building, eroding, reshaping. But at night, the tide goes out. The noise subsides. The sand smooths itself. The line between ocean and land disappears. You are that coastline returning to the sea. This is not oblivion. It's reunion. You are merging with the larger rhythm that has always held you. The parasympathetic system continues its work. Blood flow shifts toward the organs that repair and cleanse. The liver begins metabolizing quietly. The heart beats slower but more efficiently. The lungs expand with more grace. The brain, meanwhile, slips into its own version of dreaming even before full sleep. Micro-illusions, fragments of imagination blooming behind closed eyes. If you were watching a scan of your brain now, you'd see flickers of light move across the visual cortex, tiny sparks of imagery forming and fading. It's as though the mind is dipping its toes into the waters of dream, testing the temperature. You might catch glimpses, colors, shapes, sensations that don't belong to waking life. Don't chase them. Let them drift. They're the mind's way of easing you toward the deeper ocean, and soon, without noticing the moment it happens, you'll cross that invisible line from being aware of rest to simply being rest, the science of stillness. Even in this deep quiet, the body remains active in its hidden ways. The glymphatic system, discovered only recently, works like a tide that washes through the brain during sleep, removing waste proteins that build up during wakefulness. It's like a nightly cleaning crew, tidying the neural pathways so thought can flow freely again tomorrow. At the same time, the hippocampus, keeper of memory, replays the day's events. Important moments are strengthened, trivial ones gently erased. The brain is editing your story while you dream. Cortisol levels fall, signaling the end of vigilance. Growth hormone rises, repairing tissues, rejuvenating cells. Even the immune system joins in, releasing cytokines that patrol for damage and infection. Every part of you participates in the restoration, and through it all, the nervous system maintains perfect rhythm. The vagus nerve hums quietly between brain and body, maintaining harmony. It's like a lullaby written in biology, a reminder that you are not separate parts, but one living symphony, the peace beyond thought. Soon, you'll drift into the deepest layers of sleep, the ones you'll never remember. In that realm there is no self to recall. Time dissolves. Space becomes meaningless. You are not gone. You are everywhere. The Buddhists call it the luminous void. Neuroscientists call it non-REM stage 3. It doesn't matter what name you use. It's the same silence, the same wide stillness that underlies every breath of the universe. You enter it each night without effort, without ceremony, without even noticing. And in doing so, you participate in the oldest rhythm of existence, expansion and contraction, waking and rest, creation and dissolution. The galaxies do it. The oceans do it. You do it too. Now let the final traces of wakefulness unravel. You've walked through all the corridors of thought, from curiosity to wonder to reflection. This is the final hallway, the one lined with quiet lamps that lead to the door of rest. You don't need to open it. It opens itself. There's a moment, maybe right now, when even the act of listening becomes too much. The words you hear begin to blur into the hum of your own breath. The voice that guided you becomes part of the environment, not something outside, but something inside. echoing softly through the space of your mind. Let that happen. You are safe here. If your eyes are heavy, that's perfect. Let them close completely. If your hands are warm, let them rest where they've fallen. Your body knows exactly how to find comfort when you stop directing it. The surface beneath you holds you completely. Every curve, every weight. You don't need to hold yourself anymore. The earth is doing it for you. Outside somewhere, night stretches its quiet wings. Millions of other beings are sleeping under the same dark sky, hearts beating, lungs expanding, dreams unfolding. Across cities and forests and oceans, the same rhythm plays. Inhale, exhale, dream. You belong to that rhythm. The stars above are not distant. They are kin. The same atoms that shimmer in your blood once burned in those fires. The iron in your body, the calcium in your bones, all forged in the hearts of long-dead stars. Even in sleep, you are participating in the grand continuity of matter and light. You are the universe, resting as itself. Somewhere deep in your chest, your heartbeat continues its ancient drumming. It doesn't ask for attention. It simply keeps time. Each beat sends a small wave through the body, a reminder that life persists even in stillness. If you focus on it, you might feel its rhythm syncing with your breath. Two waves finding each other, merging into one. Inhale. The heart lifts. Exhale. It settles again. This is harmony at the smallest scale. This is what peace feels like in its purest form. Not absence, but coherence. If you could look at the world from above, not as a human, but as consciousness itself, you'd see countless small lights glowing in the dark, cities, stars, and within each home, smaller lights, the minds of dreamers, billions of private universes unfolding in silence. And yet, in that vastness, there is no chaos. There is order, symmetry, rhythm. The same physics that keeps planets in orbit keeps the neurons in your brain firing in gentle waves. You are not apart from that pattern. You are one of its expressions. So, as your mind grows quiet, you can trust the world to continue its dance. Gravity will hold the oceans in place. The moon will trace its curve through the sky. The earth will turn softly toward dawn. Nothing requires your effort. You are allowed to rest. This is what peace really is. Not escape, but return. The slow collapse into peace is simply the body remembering what it was made for. Every cell in you was built to oscillate between action and stillness, tension and release. Even the heart has its diastole, its pause between beats. Tonight is your diastole. Let everything widen. Let the world fade to softness. Let the mind become a field of gentle frequencies. If there is a thought left, bless it, then let it dissolve. And if there's a feeling rising, tenderness, gratitude, ache, hold it like a small candle in a dark room. Watch it flicker. Watch it go out. The darkness left behind is not empty. It's full of possibility. You are falling not into nothing, but into wholeness. The slow collapse into peace is not the end of the story. It's the pause that allows the next one to begin. In the morning you'll rise again, a little newer, a little lighter, the scaffolding of the mind rebuilt quietly in the night. But for now, there is only this: breath, warmth, gravity, stillness, the chemistry of safety, the physics of letting go. Every system in your body hums in perfect cooperation. Every cell glows faintly with life. The night wraps around you like a soft equation solved at last. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to prove, only peace, unfolding. If your eyes are closed, keep them closed. If your breath is slow, let it slow even more. If your body is heavy, trust that weight. It means you are home, you are safe, you are loved. You are part of something vast and kind. The story continues. But for now, you can rest between chapters. The night will hold you. Somewhere between your inhale and your exhale, the universe is breathing with you. You can't hear it, not as sound. but you can feel it in the gentle rise of your chest, in the slow expansion of space inside your ribs. That movement, so small, so human, is a mirror of something vast, because everything that exists breathes. The stars do it in their own language, expanding and contracting in heat and light. Galaxies swirl and drift like lungs drawing cosmic air. Even the universe itself inhales and exhales in its rhythm. Expansion, cooling, contraction, rebirth. When you breathe, you're not mimicking the cosmos. You are participating in it. The same carbon you release was once the exhale of an ancient forest. The same oxygen you draw in might have touched the gills of a whale, the leaves of 1,000 trees, the lungs of another dreamer far away. Breath is the oldest exchange in the world. A language older than speech, a rhythm older than life. Now, let's slow down. Take a breath in, but softer this time, as if the air itself were delicate, sacred. Feel it travel down the throat, through the chest, expanding the space between your ribs. There, in that pause, you're weightless. Then let it go gently. Listen to the exhale. It's not just leaving, it's giving back. Every living thing is part of this infinite circulation, inhaling what another exhales, sharing life without borders. This is not metaphor, it's chemistry. The atoms entering you now were forged in the hearts of stars billions of years ago. Hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, all recycled endlessly from supernovae to soil to skin. Each breath carries the memory of starlight. You are not borrowing air, you are remembering it. In deep sleep, your breathing becomes perfectly symmetrical, each inhale matching its exhale, each pause like a small silence between tides. The brain synchronizes to this rhythm, slowing its waves to delta, aligning physiology with cosmic cadence. Your body becomes an instrument perfectly tuned to stillness. This is what peace sounds like inside a living thing. If you could listen closely, not with ears but with attention, you'd hear your own cells breathing too. Every mitochondrion exchanging oxygen for energy. Every red blood cell delivering life through dark rivers of capillary. It's a symphony of microscopic respiration. Billions of instruments playing one shared note. Continue. When astronauts look down at Earth, they often describe something called the overview effect, a shift in perception, a realization that borders are imaginary, that everything alive is part of one delicate system breathing together. From above, the planet looks like a lung, swirling clouds, rivers branching like arteries, forests spreading like alveoli. You don't have to leave Earth to feel that. You can feel it right here, in the inhale that begins outside you and the exhale that returns to it. You are part of the same pattern. The air that enters your lungs tonight will drift through the atmosphere tomorrow, carrying traces of your existence into the sky. In this way, you are never gone. You're distributed, one breath at a time. Science calls this exchange equilibrium. Poets call it harmony. The truth is both. When you breathe deeply, your nervous system recalibrates. The vagus nerve, that wandering messenger of calm, senses the slow expansion of the diaphragm and tells the brain all is well. Heart rate falls, stress hormones lower, digestion resumes. The body reads breath as safety. That's why breathing exercises work, why sighing feels like relief, why stillness so often begins with air. Even the universe seems to understand this, the way galaxies cluster and then drift apart, like the rhythm of lungs finding balance. You are, in every measurable and mystical sense, breathing the same way the cosmos expands. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the inhale come in through the nose, cool, light, effortless. Feel the exhale through the mouth, warm, slower, complete. Each one connects you to everything that ever was. Somewhere far away, another person might be doing the same. Listening, resting, breathing. You don't know them, but in this rhythm, you are not strangers. You are 2 points in the same pulse, distant but synchronized. This is what unity feels like. Not thought, not concept, rhythm. If you could see the world through the lens of physics, you'd see motion everywhere. Even in stillness, particles vibrate. Even in silence, waves move through air. Nothing truly stops. Not stars, not oceans, not you. Your breathing is the proof, a perfect balance between motion and stillness. Each cycle sustains you and releases you, holds you and lets you go. There's a quiet wisdom in that. Every inhale is a beginning, the first act of birth repeated endlessly. Every exhale is an ending, a small surrender, a trust in return. Together they form the pattern of life, expansion, contraction, renewal. You've been doing it since the moment you arrived in the world, your first cry, your first breath, your first participation in the cosmic rhythm. And one day, when the body decides it's had enough, the final exhale will return you fully to that rhythm, folded back into the same stillness you came from. So, even death is not an end. It's the deepest breath out, for now, though the air moves easily through you, feeding the brain, cooling the blood, whispering to every cell that it is safe to rest. Each molecule of oxygen is accepted with quiet gratitude. Each exhale carries away what's no longer needed. The process is so simple, it feels divine. Your body is wise beyond your knowing. It doesn't need your control, only your permission. So, tonight, as you rest, let your breath become the teacher. Let it show you what peace feels like in motion. Let it guide your mind toward that still, endless rhythm that holds the galaxies in orbit and the tides in rhythm. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the hum beneath everything, the vibration that connects the smallest atom to the largest star. Physicists call it the cosmic background, the faint echo of the Big Bang still singing through space. But if you slow down enough, you'll realize you carry that same frequency inside you. Every cell in your body hums with it. You are the echo of the universe remembering itself. Each inhale is an ancient memory. Each exhale a contribution to eternity. Even silence participates in that hum. The pause between breaths is not emptiness. It's balance. It's the midpoint of existence, where the universe holds still long enough to remember that it is infinite. Breathe in again. Feel the chest rise, the ribs widen. Breathe out. Feel the body sink, the air leave like light dissolving. This is the universe in miniature, expansion and contraction, creation and release, endlessly repeating, endlessly calm. When your breath slows enough, you can feel the line between body and air blur. You become the atmosphere, and the atmosphere becomes you. There's no longer a separation between what's inside and what's outside. It's all one movement. That realization is peace. Somewhere beyond your awareness, the stars are moving too. They are breathing fire, spinning, collapsing, reforming, their rhythm impossibly slow, yet perfectly matched to yours. When you exhale, a star flickers. When you inhale, a galaxy brightens. The connection is poetic, yes, but also literal. The same elements, the same physics, the same origin. Every breath you take is starlight transformed into life. If that thought feels too large, let it comfort you. You are part of something immeasurable, and that something is kind. Let the breath grow slower still. Inhale, the world widens. Exhale, it softens. Let the spaces between breaths lengthen until they almost touch. That's where peace lives, not in motion, but in the pause. The pause between heartbeats, the silence between waves, the stillness between stars. In that silence, there's no need for names or stories. There's only belonging. Your body knows how to find it. It's finding it right now. The breath of the universe flows through you, not metaphorically but physically, atom by atom, second by second. You don't have to do anything. You only have to allow it. If your eyes are closed, keep them closed. If your thoughts are soft, let them fade entirely. Your breath will continue faithful, ancient, patient. Let it carry you downward into stillness. Let it remind you that to be alive is to be in rhythm with everything that ever was. The universe breathes you as much as you breathe it. Somewhere, the first light is beginning to gather. It might be far away from you, on the edge of another horizon, another life beginning its day. But the promise of dawn is already written in the air. The night has carried you through its long, quiet corridors, through the chambers of thought and dream and rest. And now, as everything slows to its softest heartbeat, we reach the final whisper of this story. This is not an ending, not really. It's more like a pause, the moment between exhale and inhale, where everything feels whole. Wherever you are tonight, in a city, a small town, by the sea, beneath a ceiling of stars, the world around you is breathing with you. Every sleeping creature, every resting mind, every leaf that turns quietly in the wind shares the same rhythm. The night has held you the way it holds all things. Gently, without judgment, without hurry, you've traveled far inside yourself. You've wandered through the architecture of the brain, watched the orchestra of neurons, drifted through the sea of memory, floated across the dream. You've met the whispering chemicals, the mirror of the mind, and the truth that perhaps you were always dreaming. You've followed curiosity until it softened into wonder, then into peace. And now you stand at the threshold of morning, not to wake abruptly, but to linger in the sweetness of in-between. The story has done its work. The body has done its work. The brain hums quietly beneath the surface, bathed in calm chemistry. The world waits, patient, kind. You might hear it now, the sound of your own breath, steady and deep. It's quieter than the wind, but more certain. Each inhale is the world beginning again. Each exhale, the world forgiving itself. The air entering your lungs carries atoms that have traveled across time, from oceans to forests, from the lungs of other dreamers to the very stars that made you. When you breathe, you are touching everything, and as you breathe, the last threads of thought loosen. The mind, which spent the night learning to rest, is ready to dream again, not with images this time, but with quiet awareness. You are still inside the story, but the story has stopped needing words. If you're still awake enough to hear this, know that you are safe. The day will come soon, but it's not asking for you yet. There is still time to float, still time to exist without direction. Let yourself drift. The thoughts that might begin to rise, the ones about tomorrow or yesterday, can wait. They are like birds outside a window. You can hear them, but you don't need to open the curtains yet. The world can hold itself for a while longer. Right now, you are exactly where you belong, in the gentle hum between night and dawn, between being and becoming. You may notice as you rest here that something in you feels lighter. It's not because the world has changed, but because your attention has softened. Awareness itself has become kind. You are not demanding answers or expecting anything. You are simply here, and here is enough. That's the secret the night teaches, that peace is not the absence of thought, but the quiet acceptance of it. You've learned how to listen to your own mind without fear, to see it as something tender and beautiful. You've discovered that the same chemistry that carries anxiety also carries joy, that the same neurons that remember pain also hold love. You've seen that you are made of patterns and particles, of starlight and story, of matter and meaning, and all of it belongs. If that realization makes your chest ache with something that feels like gratitude, that's the right response. That's the heart recognizing itself in everything. Soon you will sleep completely, or perhaps you already are. Maybe these words are reaching you from a distance now, half heard, half dreamed. That's all right. They were never meant to be held. They were meant to carry you, and when you wake, whether in an hour or in the gentle light of morning, the world will be waiting, just as soft, just as curious. You will open your eyes, and the dream will continue, only brighter. You might remember fragments of this story, a phrase, an image, a feeling of warmth. You might not remember anything at all. Both are perfect. Sleep has its own wisdom. It keeps what you need and lets the rest dissolve. Before we part, take one last breath, not deep, not forced, just enough to feel the night fill your lungs. Hold it for a moment, then let it go slowly. That breath is a small goodbye, a thank you to the body that carried you here, to the mind that learned how to rest, to the universe that kept breathing with you. You've done enough. You are enough. The night agrees. Wherever you are, I hope tonight carried you somewhere peaceful. Maybe far, maybe near. Maybe only to the quiet center of yourself. The place that never rushes, never worries, never forgets its own calm. Rest there. Stay as long as you need. And when morning finds you, when light begins to trace its way through the window, touching the corners of the room, reminding the world astir, you'll rise with it. Unhurried, new, you don't need to rush back to the noise. You can bring the night with you, a thin thread of stillness, a small reminder of how gentle you can be. Because this isn't goodbye. It's a soft continuation. The story will always be here when you need it again. Until then, let the day dissolve. Let the thoughts soften and let the world go quiet. Until next time, dream freely.